So this is the second time that we've had Adam Selipsky be the chief keynote. One of the things I've noticed is that the launches are much more spread out. So Peter's keynote had several launches, Adam's had several launches, Swami's keynote, which we'll talk about in a little bit, also had several launches. I actually like this better, but I do think it gives each individual keynote a little bit less oomph. You know, you're always looking for that really big launch, and I'm sure to some individuals there were some nice launches, but there was nothing that was broadly applicable to every single AWS customer so far. I do think that will change. So let's recap the launches really fast. We got 6 ID instances. We got updates to Quick Site Queue, which allows you to ask questions of your data. So instead of just forecasting, you can ask why questions of your data. We got OpenSearch serverless. We got Aurora to Redshift ETL. Don't know exactly how that's going to work yet, but very curious to play with it. I think that could very much be one of the biggest launches of reInvent this year. We got guard duty for container runtimes. That's always good. We got Amazon Security Lake. This frankly is a long-awaited feature. People have been building customized solutions. They've been building their own sort of OpenSearch clusters to go and be the security data lake for all of the incoming stuff. But Security Lake by default includes VPC flow logs, CloudTrail logs, Route 53, guard duty, IAM access analyzer, and also stuff from partners. We got AWS Clean Rooms, which allow you to analyze and collaborate on data sets with business partners without revealing the underlying data. So let's talk about that one for a moment, because I think this is another sleeper hit, but it applies primarily to concepts like ad tech. So ad tech has this issue of they want to share cohorts, they want to share analysis of user behavior, but they don't want to share those individual users. They want it to be shared in an anonymized way. So they don't want to be advertising to somebody who already bought a TV, right? And showing them 100 million more TVs. That's what Clean Room is going to allow. It's going to allow them to mark certain users in certain ways and share that data. It has applications outside of ad tech, and I'm very curious to play around with it and learn more about it. I think there's a lot of upside for Clean Rooms, but we're just going to have to wait to learn more, and I hope to be able to tell people more about it later. From Clean Rooms, we're going to talk about AWS Supply Chain. This is essentially a service that provides supply chain dynamics running in AWS. Frankly, the keynote wasn't super clear on what this was. It is in preview, and I just don't know enough about it to really have an opinion on it. It could be one of those offerings like FinSpace, which is really just sort of a conglomeration of other services with a different console in front of it. SimSpace Weaver, so this allows you to run massive spatial simulations without managing infrastructure. That's available today, not in preview, and it lets your engineers focus on spatial simulations. I think SimSpace Weaver is something that moves AWS into the realm of kind of like 3D engineering beyond this idea of, AWS solely exists for compute platforms. It's also going to be for simulation of real-world events, and I can see it being used in everything from like factory floors to just general modeling. Then we have Amazon Omics. This allows you to store, query, and analyze and generate insights from genomic and other omics data. This is like proteomics and things like that. It's another healthcare launch. I think that one's pretty good. And those are all the core launches. There were also launches in Peter's keynote. At the end of reInvent, we'll do a general summary of all the launches. It'll be a much longer video. But those are all the launches. And now I'm going to move on to the overall theme of the keynote. So one of the things that we found out is that there were 50,000 in-person attendees. There were 300,000 people remote. And we learned that 83% of the top 1,000 unicorn startups run on AWS. One of the first things that Adam talked about was sustainability. That was met with a lot of cheers and a lot of noise from the crowd. People seem excited about it, and he made a commitment that Amazon would be 100% renewable by 2025. And as a whole, they are currently the largest corporate purchaser of renewable energy in the world. And then the well-architected framework even has a pillar for sustainability now. There was a brief interlude from there to talk about space. I was really hoping we were about to launch the first, Utopia Planitia 1A availability zone and region, but that didn't happen. I'm still looking forward to the first availability zone or region in space. And Aurora perf numbers, those were cool to be shared, but it's the typical thing that you've seen from these keynotes before. It's like the 5 times the performance of traditional MySQL, 3x the performance of Postgres, and 1/10 the cost of commercial DBs. We've all heard that refrain a few times now, But one of the things that I enjoyed hearing about was how ETL is this thankless job, it's unsustainable black hole of heavy lifting, and why hasn't it become easier? And it's a very difficult problem to solve, and that's what led into this talk about Aurora to Redshift ETL. I'm really, really excited about that. Then we need to talk about the fact that NASDAQ has gone pretty much all in on AWS, and if NASDAQ can go there, it means anyone can run in the cloud, and you really can just sort of trust that. And finally, there's the Options Clearing Corporation, OCC. They have moved all of their core workloads to the cloud, and they also got a notice of no objection from the SEC, which kind of greenlights the way for other financial institutions to start moving significant and large workloads into the cloud. I mean, if OCC can do it, then so can they. I think that's a little bit of a sleeper hit for analysts, and there's going to be a lot of talk about that later. And it means that AWS is the de facto path of least resistance for building out new applications in the financial services sector. I'm really, really excited about what this means and how that's going to grow the financial services sector. Adam closed his keynote with some really nice thoughts about the future and what things were going to be announced later in the conference. We've still got 2 more keynotes. We have Swami's, we have Werner's, and we also have a pretty nice keynote coming from Ruba, which will be covered by somebody else. Thank you so much for listening. Really, really appreciate everyone here at reInvent. Come by our booth 2616 here in the expo hall. And if you're not at reInvent, we can't wait to share some of our learnings with you.